Good morning, everyone. I'm Mohsen Ahmed, CEO of Dubai South Logistic District, and I would like to welcome you to another episode of our podcast series of Enabling E-commerce by EZDubai. Today, we have a special guest, Mr. Abhinav Sharma, who's the country head of UAE and KSA for FirstCry, a company that we are very proud who's part of our community and at Dubai South, EZDubai. Abhinav, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Mohsen. Thank you for having me over. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I think to give our audience a sort of a start, maybe could you just give us our audience who's FirstCry and what where you guys and just a brief introduction.
Yeah, sure. So FirstCry is an Indian company. We started in India in the e-commerce space about 12 years back. And we're in India right now, the largest specialized omni-channel player in the mother, baby, and kids segment. We operate both the e-commerce platform as well as well over 600 stores across 200 plus cities in India. And our first international venture was in the UAE. We started in the UAE towards the end of 2019, around the November timeframe, 2019. And so we are about 3 years old here in the UAE, and very soon, sooner than you know, we would be live in the Saudi Arabian country as well. So that's who we are, solving a lot of problems for the parents across geographies, and making parenting a wonderful, memorable journey. That's our vision. That's our mission that we have embarked on 12 years back, and we continue to do so.
That's good to hear. I mean, I still remember 2019 when you walked into our office. First time we met 3 years ago. Maybe the timing was perfect. E-commerce boom right after that. So it's been a great success story.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that you are an omni-channel. And you mentioned that you have sort of 200 or
600, more than 600 stores in India.
600 stores in India. Just so that our audience who are not familiar with this, I mean, what's the difference between the people who do marketplace, the pure player, or omni-channel? Just so that we give everybody on the same wavelength. And what's the difference between these?
Sure. So as a pure play player, FirstCry being a niche vertical in the mother, baby, and kids space, we have completely focused on solving a unique set of problems for the parents of the region of the country. And we've been doing this over the past 12 years. In doing so, we've been able to solve a plethora of problems which parents face in their daily lives and their parenting journey. Now, versus somebody else who's a horizontal, the focus might be just that much diluted. For us, the primary focus area is around the mother and baby space. And for example, it's just not commerce, it's beyond commerce that we've implemented solutions, we've innovated. For example, our parenting app that we have as part of our commerce app, that itself is organically driving a lot of traffic, a lot of sessions, both in India and the UAE, which speaks volumes about the type of problems parents face in this day and age. And all of these answers and all of their queries are answered on one specific platform. Vis-a-vis a horizontal, since there is a lot of other things that goes on. The primary focus, the target solutioning, the target audience focus is shifted. The focus is diluted. For us, it's been fixing, solving the problems, designing, innovating, and presenting the solutions to our target audience to make sure the parenting journey is a memorable one, like I said earlier.
So let me get this so you are an omni-channel. Obviously for the mother and the children or the parent and their children, but you also creating a space for people also to trade on your platform, right? If I'm getting...
Yes. So and again, being a niche player allows us to do that with a great amount of ease, both for our partners, our business partners, be it a e-commerce entrepreneur, an established one, or a new entrant, because we have dedicated processes designed and technology enabled for them to do business on our platform. Now, and not just do business, but also do business reliably and scale very, very quickly. Because we've got all these learnings, we've got the experience from a country as diverse as India, as large as India, for over a decade now. And using those experiences, that knowledge base, tweaking it to the region specifically for the business partners, I think it makes their life that much more easier. They scale faster with us, and more importantly, there are no surprises in store for them. If there are any, it's all pleasant. So they can rely on us just because of the sheer experience we bring to the table in terms of processes and technologies that we've developed over the last so many years.
Yeah, I think that you've actually maybe read my mind in terms of I wanted to touch on sort of the why would an entrepreneur or somebody who wants to trade on your platform to go to a niche market, a niche online player like yourself versus a sort of the traditional marketplace or any other player. And you certainly nailed it in terms of the advantages that you are bringing on the table of you being very specific.
And just to continue, I mean, in that same space, I think identifying gaps, providing solutions right from product development to product selection to pricing to getting conversions with minimum clicks, all of these problems have been solved over so many years. We've evolved in a much larger geography, and so these learnings are then shared with the vendor partners, with the business partners, and it makes their life so much more simpler. Their journey with us, it's not a I wouldn't term it, or I wouldn't stop at saying it's just business partnership. It's more of a journey with us. And how do we make that journey very, very smooth, seamless, and with minimum bumps, so that their business scales, our business scales, and we both do it very reliably.
Okay, I mean, I think that's fair enough, because you are very much focused on providing a solution to a very specific market, and obviously there is an advantage that you are specialized rather than being sort of a general institution. And I mean, if somebody here in the market who's a new e-commerce coming into it, an entrepreneur or wants to get into e-commerce, in particular to your domain, I mean, what would you recommend them to do as a first try, or sort of, I mean, now today we're talking about baby, but there are other marketplace sort of people like yourself who are very niche. What would you recommend these businessmen or sort of entrepreneurs who want to come into e-commerce players to do before they work with somebody like yourself? Or what do you expect them that they have?
Sure. I think it really depends on what their set of business objectives are, what they've defined as their goals and targets and their mission. However, speaking from a first cry experience, first cry vertical, I think they can be rest assured that someone like us, who's a niche player, has had full understanding, complete understanding on what the consumer demands are, what the problems a consumer or a parent faces. And if they're in that domain, I think the best way or the best thing for them to do is to work with us, use our experience, use our knowledge, our technology, our processes that we've evolved over so many years. But like I said, it really depends on what they're out there to do, what set of problems, what set of business objectives are they out there to meet. And basis that, I think it's not one or the other. It's a choice that they would make depending on their vision, their business objectives. What we can offer, like I said, sheer experience, sheer knowledge that we've gained is a very, very smooth, seamless journey for them, where they can scale very, very quickly just because of the offerings that we have, right from product selection to product development, product types, What do parents in the region need? What do they like? What do they like? What do they don't like? What kind of solutions are very widely accepted? Uh, and Also, they can leverage the technology powerhouse that we built over last so many years, and the processes that we built. It's about building processes and then using technology to enable those processes, and so that you have a very high quotient of reliability. That is what we can offer to a new entrant or an established player for that matter, or an established business for that matter.
I mean, that seems to be obviously, because you have a specialized. It looks like you're providing services way beyond sort of just a place where people do the trading. I mean, you are almost giving them the assurance in terms of the technology and also the products and that information, which shows that you're not just there for people to represent the product, but you are there on a sort of a long-term partnership. And that goes sort of to what I want to ask. I mean, you were established as or founded in 2010. 2010 for I mean, today we see e-commerce everywhere in our cities, being it in India, being it in sort of UAE. But 2010 to be a sort of a niche e-commerce platform was definitely a different differentiation where not many people had it. I mean the founders of First Cry. What do you think that prompted them to establish something like this out of India, a niche, a very large country that got them into this?
Well, I'm sure it's definitely about being inspired, and I'm sure globally there were few precedents which they thought that can be implemented and solutioned for in India. Obviously, with a huge impetus of localization in India. In India, it's an understatement if I say there are 30 countries within one country. So it's a very diverse geography and a very large geography. And that brings a lot of challenges. So when we started off 12 years back, we clearly identified there are gaps in product availability, also in demand and supply gaps. And with India being one of the largest baby and kids market globally, we thought that being a niche player in this segment will definitely solve a lot of problems going beyond commerce, and we can play a huge role in raising the next generation of India, which we have been very successful at. And then carrying forward from there, we come to the UAE, and moving from UAE, we go into KSA very, very soon, and replicating this model with the same vision, making parenting a memorable and enjoyable journey. So it all started back 12 years back with that vision, identifying those gaps. And obviously, there was inspiration around. But yes, like you rightly said, choosing a niche vertical, the vision was very, very clear, a very razor sharp focus on solving a unique set of problems which no one has done before, with a very high localization factor.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I mean, you rightly mentioned. I mean, India is very much diverse in terms of the economy. I mean, we talk about maybe 30. If I quote you on the sort of the 30 countries, but obviously language, different culture, different backgrounds. Actually, on a diversion from the e-commerce, I saw a very good initiative by First Cry called First Cry Box. That you guys are doing by distributing to almost 70,000 parents each month in India for new parents. I know it's not our e-commerce, but I would like to see. It's a very good initiative that I saw that from First Cry.
Right, and the numbers are higher than 70,000, I'm sure, and we do that. It's an introduction to First Cry. That's one. The other part is, it's a life-changing event. When a child is born, it's a life-changing event, and we believe that being part of that from the first step is, it satisfies our vision for the company right from day one of parenting. I think that's why we've had this initiative, and it's a very, very successful one at that. We reach out to more than 100,000 mothers every month across India, and and we're very proud to say that we are part of day one of their parenting journey.
Well, certainly is. I mean, any new parents will know that it is a challenge from day one. What to get, and I think it is quite a very sort of from a corporate social responsibility that First Cry did, and making life easier for new parents with this. I was when I was reading that, I was like, that's a very good way of putting something back to the community. I'm gonna be sort of a bit selfish, and I was like, when are the new parents in UAE and the KSA that you mentioned are going to be part of this scheme?
Very,
So
very soon, very soon. There are the plan is in the works, and it will happen very soon in both the countries.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Let me take you back to the sort of what our discussion about the e-commerce. I mean, you mentioned that you are an omni-channel, sort of also. I think the word that you guys use is an integrated hybrid business model. I mean, in doing something like, is there like a magic formula for somebody like yourself to sort of in terms of creating something like, and what are sort of the top tips if anybody wants to come into sort of this integrated hybrid business model that you guys have, or claiming that you are? Sorry.
Well, Mohsen, I wouldn't say there's a magic formula per se. It's not that straightforward. And having said that, I believe each player, each new entrant or an established player is continuously trying to evolve to better from yesterday. And we, being the largest specialized omnichannel player in India, we have similar plans in the UAE as well as in KSA. Having said this, we believe that a few core areas that one needs to focus on: understanding your consumer needs, solving for those needs with zero dissonance, a very robust service offering. Parenting journeys in our case is a unique example. And to top it all, I think a best-in-class service delivery. These things go a very long way in establishing a reliable and a scalable business model. And we've done this for more than a decade in India, and the learnings from there, as well as the add-ons from the region that we are here in, the learnings from this region are being implemented as we speak. So I wouldn't say it is a zero or one, black or white magic formula. You have to understand the needs of the consumer. You have to be very close to the consumer, and in our case, a parent or a mother. And we are in the sensitive category, so we're very honored, privileged to solve those problems for a parent. So knowing your consumer, solving for their needs, and doing it at scale and with agility are the key focus areas, I would say, for any new entrant if they're looking out.
Yeah, I think the key formula taking from all this is you have this, that you are focusing on the consumer. Yesterday I was in a conversation with another sort of e-commerce startup, and that was a sort of our discussion was sometimes you see people they claim they're a technology company. That they're forgetting that they are actually they're a company that's serving client, and technology happens to be a tool that's been used to serve that client rightly. And I like that you emphasize on the client or the new mother, the new parents as your sort of your focus.
It has to be that way, Mohsen, because technology at the end of the day is important. It's a very important enabler. You enable your vision, you enable your process, and your vision and your process are around or designed around the consumer. So the consumer is always first, and in our case, mothers.
I mean, 2000. Let's be back to 2019 when we met the first time. I think we met from our colleagues here in the office initially. You use Dubai as a sort of a launch pad to come into the Middle East. Sort of maybe I think you were actually the first Indian e-commerce players to come out of India to come to Dubai as a launch pad to the great sort of the Middle East. And we're actually very proud to have you guys here as part of our EZDubai community. You know, if you are another sort of, you've been there now, been doing it for the last 3 years, you got your hands in different part of the Middle East country. What would you consider before expanding? I mean, if somebody new wants to come into this market, what would they consider before their operation in the region, out of Dubai in particular?
You know, from what I've heard a lot, people, businessmen, entrepreneurs think Dubai or UAE is a very easy country to do business in terms of. I'm not talking about the ecosystem support. That's there. That's very good. But UAE is at least 50 plus markets, if not more, in one. You know, with the expat population well over 85, 90%, you have this entire demographic that you need to understand. What are they looking for? What do they like, or what do they not like? What is their reaction to a certain solution that you may have provided? All of this is very tricky to understand and implement. I think there have been quite a few businesses not do well at all, and others not seeing the scale that they once anticipated. So we have had a good run, or having a good run over the last 36 months. We've understood this market very well. We've understood the consumer very well. And when I say consumer in the plural form, it's a lot of different countries, a lot of different expats within one market in UAE, and we've been able to have a very high retention rate on our platform, which speaks volumes of our understanding of the region and also our speed to implement solutions that are tailored for the region. For the mothers in UAE, they may be from UAE, they may be from India, they may be from Southeast Asia, from the West, from the European countries, from the Southern Hemisphere, you name it. Everyone's in Dubai, everyone's in UAE. So that makes it even more challenging.
Yeah, rightly so. I mean, we're talking about from a trading perspective. Yeah, it is quite challenging. Everybody comes in this part, and they carry quite a lot of their background on sort of brands that they want to have, or sort of the product that they used to. And that certainly will make it more challenging of the number of SKUs they want to handle, or sort of the types of product. And I think what I enjoy is you always, throughout this whole conversation, and I think even previous conversation we had, you always have customer sort of the focus, and maybe that is the sort of the chemistry of success that First Cry had. I mean the numbers speaks for itself. 10 rounds of fundraising you guys done over since inception. You've raised almost close to about $750 million. It's quite a good number for a unicorn. There, and I know you also managed to attract some of the lead investors into this field. So that's quite success, and congratulations on that aspect of it.
Thank you, Mohsen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to take you. I mean, you mentioned the word ecosystem, and you mentioned Dubai as sort of a launch pad for the. I mean, what role does the ecosystem does? I mean, for you as a company, does it? And you're particularly about the niche market. That does that make a big difference for you to have a sort of the whole ecosystem, being the municipalities, the customs, the solution providers, all under in sort of in one-stop shop?
Absolutely, Mohsen. The ecosystem, each function of the ecosystem. You mentioned municipality, you mentioned customs, you mentioned the free zones or the service providers. Each function of the ecosystem has a very critical role to play in expanding the landscape of e-commerce in the region. And if it has to widen or increase, then each function of the ecosystem has to evolve to make it simpler, better, faster. Otherwise, the journey to make e-commerce a viable option is going to be a long and a hard one. For example, can you imagine imports work? How would imports work if free zones are not functioning? Similarly, if free zones are not an integral part of e-commerce, I don't think the e-commerce penetration would be as high as it needs to be. Dubai Customs, for example, or UAE Customs, for example, if they are not embarking on a project to integrate systems with e-commerce companies to ensure seamless data and information flow, I think e-commerce penetration would take a huge dent. So I believe that the entire ecosystem not only has to evolve, but also has to participate if the e-commerce landscape has to widen, has to increase, e-commerce penetration has to increase. So far, it has been good, it has been excellent, but we must not stop there. I think there is a lot of opportunity to make it simpler, better, and faster.
Yeah, and I was involved with some of these discussion with some of these the ecosystem, and I have to really put this one there that the conversation that we've been having with yourselves, your team, in integrating with some of these government entities has always been very fruitful and very innovative, and I think quite flexible from your team and your and certainly I think voice the opinion of some of these regulators to say that they're very happy with the sort of the result, and in particular that you came in here and then the whole setup was done. So thank you very much, and thanks to your team. I want to take this sort of. We've talked about the past. We talked about your journey, about here. You've obviously your fruitful thoughts on how companies establish and all this. What do you see? I mean, e-commerce saw a sort of great success during this whole pandemic and the COVID, the last 3 years, I would say. Now that sort of puts the question: how do you see e-commerce in the next 3 years, and where are the sort of the growth opportunities that in this sort of the niche sector?
Sure, Mohsen. I think you rightly said, with the pandemic hitting us in 2020, the sector saw a great deal of expansion and increase. We are having a good run here in the region, and we want to thank our consumers and our partners who place trust in us and continue to do so. Like I mentioned earlier, Mohsen, our business is a very serious or a sensitive category, and while our business is growing, we are fully cognizant of the responsibility that we have to fulfill as a business, to the community at large. It's not about business. It's about also fulfilling a responsibility. And we are continuously, the future for us, next 3 to 5 years, we are continuously working on our plans to fulfill the needs of every mother in the region and parents in their efforts to raise the next generation of the country. I think that is our responsibility. That's how serious we are about this. And we believe that talking about opportunities, I think there are immense opportunities to grow in the region but a comprehensive understanding of the demographic and agility are going to be the two key pillars for longer term success. And I think overall, it's been a good, robust business ride for us, and we believe that there is no reason this will not continue to increase with the continued support and trust of our consumers and partners.
Thanks, Abhinav. To putting a sort of the perspective for things going forward. We're coming towards the sort of the end of our discussion, but I want to see if you have any sort of final thoughts, final takeaway that you might want to share with our audience today before we wrap up the sort of the discussion.
Sure, Mohsen. I think I just want to begin with a humble thank you on behalf of FirstCry to not only Dubai South, all the entire ecosystem that has helped not just us, but e-commerce at large, to our consumers and our partners for their trust and support and feedback. As an organization, Mohsen, we work on the feedback that we receive, and we work relentlessly to improve ourselves with a customer-first approach. Our efforts are in line to serve every mother, and it's a relentless one. We are never stopping there. And as I've mentioned earlier, there's a responsibility that we believe we have to fulfill. And to fulfill that, we need the support of the entire ecosystem to enable to serve the community, to grow the landscape of e-commerce in the region, and to be the most trusted brand for years to come in the region. So I think opportunities are there. There are a lot of players, new players will come in. Understanding the consumer, understanding the mother for us is very, very critical. And we will be innovating. We will be implementing solutions tailor-made to solve parenting problems, to make that journey seamless, wonderful, and a memorable one.
Just the final, is there going to be a sort of an omni setup in UAE, or is it we're doing just web-based?
Before you know it, Mohsen, we'll be
Before I
there.
know it. Okay. Thank you very much, Abhinav, for sort of a very fruitful discussion. I think for our audience, obviously Abhinav was very keen to mention that customer is the focus. He repeated it several times in this discussion. Technology is a solution for any success of the e-commerce. The sort of the collaboration also, I think, was one of the key that got maybe FirstCry to grow as quickly in the region, and the close workmanship that they have done. So those are very, very fruitful thoughts from Abhinav here today. I would like to thank our audience for being patient to listening to us here today, and hopefully, and look forward to more podcasts as this that we will be discussing further on e-commerce at EZDubai, and we look forward to seeing new guests. Thank you, Abhinav, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Mohsen. Thank you.
Thank you.